So we open with all the girls gathering at Angie's because we going to Greece. We learn a few cuss words to get ready for our trip, but we see the group is divided. Only Heather and Mary showed up at Angie's. So at our first dinner, we argue about Lisa thinking everybody copies her because, oh, if I have a Cartier, nobody else can have a Cartier. And Heather's like, well, Heffa, I got one too. Call me a style biter. Oh my God, Heather and Whitney got them just to piss off Lisa. Now that's housewife shade. That's aspirational. And you know what, Lisa? Who would want to mock your lack of water intake? The fact that you don't have a basic knowledge of how the human body works and what foods you need to eat to run it. Who would want to mock your court cases where you have to borrow money from men to live the life you're living in Utah, of all places, so you can keep up with the Joneses on this show? Who would want to mock your poor facial surgery, your squat face, and your jowls? I want to talk about your jowls, your loud, proud, and strong jowls. You got a face like... I mean, the bottom of your face looks like the base of a pyramid. Squat. What the hell? Jowls. Held up by threads, which means your face is one stitch away from falling apart one day. Oh my God. Your eye makeup looks like soot because you've got a soiled soul. You think anybody wants to mock you and that cheap hair dye? You need to start going to Lunatic Fringe because your hair is a fool. And I'll tell you why she showed up to dinner in them sunglasses, because she was crying because that husband don't want her no more. He found a woman that knows how to make a salad, because you've got a stink. That's got to be one tart twat with no vegetables. No vegetables and a vagina? Oh, hell no. You got to flush that sucker out. Why do you think I'm always drinking a kale smoothie to keep clean? Cleaning your insides is as important as washing your ass. But you think she wash her ass? Do you think she wash her ass? You sleeping in makeup ass trollop. And you don't have to be a tramp to be a trollop. Lisa, you are just hateful and a real interesting combination. You're vain yet ugly. That's why you don't like Whitney. Even with this red hair, Whitney is a beautiful woman. But you've never had that, and you never will. And you like to pick on Heather because Heather's always been the ugly one and the big girl. So you got to feel superior when you stand next to Heather. But now that your ankles have out-circumferenced hers, oh, you don't know what to do. Angie is bringing it to Lisa. She said, well, you do. Whenever somebody gets something and you have it, you say they're copying you, even though it's a different item, just same brand. Angie said, you're snobby and we're sick of it. Snobby, but you don't drink water or eat vegetables, so you're snobby but stinky. Lisa does always talk about shit like can't nobody else afford it. Angie isn't jealous and competitive of you, Lisa. She's just meeting you where you're at. She's like, I've had my Porsches. I've had 5. You've only had 3. I had my Rolex and my Cartier before you. But then Meredith says her thing is to be in the bathroom scrolling on her phone. And everybody's like, wait, no, that's Meredith's thing now. She is the bathtub queen. And that lightens the mood a bit. So the next morning, Meredith's getting her makeup done. So Angie was able to get everybody a nice villa since she had to host that road trip that didn't nobody want to be on. However, Heather is still mad at Meredith because Meredith gave her an ultimatum over Brittany and then wants to deny it. But we all head to the beach, and I'm going to head to the kitchen for a hot wing. Meredith gonna say there was some miscommunication of me calling Heather a liar. Flash to her calling Heather and everybody else a liar. She don't remember shit. Angie puts a bucket hat on that's like all Greek flagged out And Mary's like, don't do a whole outfit like that. That's too busy. Then she tell Heather and Whitney they got bucket-shaped heads, so they're smart. And we get a flash of Brittany's face, and she said, no, that's a square jaw, which is a stupid. And I have to agree. But now Angie gonna question Bronwyn, are you gonna have an affair while you're in Greece? And she's like, the marriage ain't open yet. Heather's like, no, hold on. You had put your husband in a hotel last week and was talking about opening the marriage, but now everything's fine. So everybody's tired of Bronwyn's backpedaling, and Mary's like, you can't pretend you didn't let that toothpaste out the tube. You won't mistake me for that rube. Okay, him staying at a hotel for a few nights isn't a separation to me. I think he's got to get an apartment for there to be a separere. But yeah, he did spend a few nights out the home. Meredith said, I've stood in your shoes, so I have this experience. But with this group, this is not going to be the last time you hear it. So Heather still has a problem with Whitney. However, Heather's still angry with Meredith, and she's like, I'm not letting this have to sweep it under the rug. So she talked to Myrrh. So the girls go out for dinner, but Lisa's still getting her glam done, and they're low-key pissed. So all the girls are enjoying the view, and up walks Lisa to step on the moment. So Meredith talks to Mary, and she's like, why isn't Heather talking to me? And she's like, because you and Heather need to have a real conversation and suss it out. And Meredith says, we can just move on. And Mary's like, no, that's the problem. That's what you keep doing. So Meredith buys Heather a little peace offering bracelet. And Heather tells Bronwyn it's not going to work. Angie, you can tell, is really hurt that Lisa isn't as blown away by Greece as she is. Lisa don't know how to appreciate nothing. But we get back to this jury. And Mary's like, y'all should talk it out. We're all at the table at dinner. And Meredith says, I don't want to do this in front of the group. Heather said, well, you assassinated my loyalty and friendship and character. No, I did not. Meredith will not admit anything, and Heather is just trying. So, of course, Lisa pipes up for Meredith because Lisa'd be just as wrong. Heather tells Meredith, you've dealt with way worse stuff and still been friends with people, so I don't know why this TikTok is your hill to die on. You are selective about what you have outrage on. I disagree with you. And if you want to hold a grudge, Heather, that's up to you. Heather said, you ain't gonna gaslight Heather. This ain't on me. But then Lisa says, well, you know, Heather, you're not always the nicest to me, and Heather apologizes for what she said at lunch. Now, Lisa's crying, talking about nobody's the judge and jury. Whitney says, look, we're protecting something that happened. We're lying for a reason, and that's what's making this awky boo. Whit brings it back. We are all fighting because this is about how you treated Brittany on the plane, Mayor, and Lise. Whitney said, we're all paying the price for your actions. I don't think you have a problem. You are the problem right now. So Lisa and Meredith storm off from the dinner, and that's where the shit ends. And Heather's like, now I'm going to have to apologize for being honest. Well, you knew Meredith wanted to keep the lie up. Let her. All right, well, that was the shit, so I'm going to see you soon for something. I want to talk about Meredith and this need to control her image. Meredith, if you want to control your image, you need to get off of Housewives. You've been on long enough. You've got your claim to fame, but it's not fair to the other girls that you get to have an outburst and act out and not be held accountable for it. And it's interesting that you're seeing these girls are not so anti-Britney that they will let you just be a foul being to her. They're like, no, you were mean. Britney's willing to let it go to stay on the show, but we have seniority and we can and will hold you accountable. We are not going to let the darkness of your soul not come to light. And I feel that we're not going to get the resolve we need on the reunion unless there is some footage played, but I'm hoping this leads to Meredith last season. But that's just me. That's just me. I'm tired of her. She needs to either engage or disengage from the show. You got your son on Next Gen NYC and he doesn't deliver either. Both of you can go from Bravo. All right, let's get to Diddy or part 3. It's pretty good. So we open with Diddy talking to some girl, talking about, you want to scream in the crowd, talk to daddy. Sir, you are 50. There's no crowd screaming for you anymore. Child, not his partner calling Misa his first project. My Fair Lady T. Child, a project like a housing development. Like you had to get her up to code, a project. So now we are in the golden, oh, I'm starting to sound better. The golden age of Bad Boy after Biggie has died. So now Diddy's living off of all of Biggie's music and paying the family a pittance. And all their artists are at the top of the chart, from Total to himself. And Diddy made everything about himself. One of his artists didn't just have to help him with the lyrics to the Godzilla song, they had to help him literally know how to move and how to speak like a real rapper. The guy said I had to puppeteer him, and I'm sure Diddy would have liked a hand up the rear. And you know what's sad? You passed out on so much gay creativity that also would have been happy to bust it wide for you. Wide as all outside. But you had to get people that didn't want your ass. They say the song was a hit. I remember the song, I remember the music video, but I remember no one liking that movie. I mean, Sarah Jessica and Matthew Broderick, like, we know he liked to go hit people in cars, so I never really cared too much for him. And Sarah Jessica, I only want to see you in the original Sex and the City. And honestly, it was a spinoff of a more boring Carrie. Although I think we got to see that more boring Carrie on And Just Like Crap. So he's dating J-Lo. We're done with Kim Porter. Well, Kim's still around, but he's got his artist living in a townhouse on 23rd and 3rd. And that's when Shine and the guy that wrote the Godzilla song were living together. Shine had a bullet jammed in a gun, and the guy that wrote Godzilla was like, if you can't work a gun, you don't need to have it. Well, lo and behold, a week later, Shine and Diddy get caught up in a club shooting. Now, Diddy had Shine's lawyers because Shine was a Bad Boy artist, so Diddy paid his lawyers. Of course, the lawyers said, all right, well, we're going to throw Shine under the bus, so he got 10 years, and Diddy was scot-free. Shine said he tried to complain, but no one would listen because Diddy was so powerful. That poor woman got shot in the face and didn't get a penny for it. Also, you know what's interesting? I have heard the phrase whisked away so much in this documentary. I'm like, we don't use whisked away anymore. But I guess it's for rich people when a bunch of people are escorting you into something. I guess that's a whisking. Who says whisked away? Let me know in the comments. Maybe they're trying to bring it back. His lawyer saying, when is it going to be fair for Sean Puffy Combs? He could have made it fair for himself by not sexually assaulting women or men. Like, you could have had all the peen and puss without having to snatch it. You could have paid people and been fair. When has it not been unfair with Sean Diddy Combs? And then before that shooting, he had whooped some record exec's ass and had to pay him $500,000 to keep it out of court. Because you were on the cross playing Jesus, but shimmying like sperm. So now Bad Boy starts to fade away. All of the artists are moving on because they ain't never made no money. The luster is gone. Everyone's mired in court documents and lawyer debt. So Puff says, what can I do now? I'll do a reality show and make a supergroup. And that's when he starts sexually harassing Aubrey, or as he referred to as the looker. She always has some foundation that doesn't match her complexion. That's what I'm looking at. But that's just me. That's just me. Bad Boy became known as Bad Company. Child, Diddy was sending Aubrey dick pics and then all greatest to God at the end of them. Sacrilege with your slong. Will it ever end with him? And then all the bands that he made, well, we know what happened to them, not a damn thing. But also, American Idol kind of gave us Kelly Clarkson and Jennifer Hudson. The Voice, silence from The Voice. We haven't got a hit. We haven't got a star. I like, it's all about the judges. And their careers are over. So what is the point? What is the purpose? How is it still on the air? Bab said her lawyer told her, look, this contract is about fame and not fortune. But she signed it and she regretted. So Aubrey got fired for not participating sexually. You didn't need his worms. This is also when Sean John, the clothing brand, is born and he starts making real scratch. Nobody says scratch anymore either. So Puff decides to do Dirty Money with Dawn and Kalina. Kalina said, "We were building the camaraderie you have with your church choir. What church is you going to?" So Kalina saw Diddy and Dawn had a special relationship. But then Cassie was there, so you can't call it a relationship. So it's a relationship. Meanwhile, Kim don't know about what's going on in the studio. I'm sure she had an inkling. But she like, he ain't my husband, so child, cheat in peace. I want Kim Porter's body exhumed. Let's get some forensic files on this fucker. And again, Puff got to steal a girl from somebody, and Cassie was originally with Ryan Leslie. Then Diddy gets his Ciroc deal while tying Cassie down in a 10-album deal. So Kim realized that Diddy wasn't going to change, and she put up with it. Kim eventually stops putting up with it and is like, look, I'm going to break up with you publicly and let you have your heifer. Cassie, however, thought she was going to become a star and not a starless. But now we got the sex worker story. Oh, God. So Cassie is opening the door for sex workers to hunch on her while Diddy got a mask over his face watching and diddling. Oh, God. I would have bust out laughing. I would have bust out. I'm like, I'm sorry, you've got to be kidding me. Then he talked about how oily he had to get. He said, I put some on like a normal person. She said, oh no, we got to squirt and flirt. The guy said Diddy was very detail oriented. Turn 10 degrees this way, 10 degrees that way. Grab that dick. Oh, God. 50 had so much fun with this. Not a GTD. Not a GTD. Oh, my God. He hunched on them for $6,000 for 8 years, like continuously. I mean, I hope you save some of that money in a puffy purse. They collected your semen for a year. Again, Diddy was like Lamar. Oh, God, this is just gross. I got to fast forward. He always gave out a little bussy on Biggie Day. Every March 9th, they made sure to call him. 8 years. So didn't your rates go up? I guess that's not really the point. Taking that out to act mean. So there was one night with Kim Porter where he got his wrist cut, and that got him addicted to the Percocets, and that started his drug addiction and drug dabbling. And the baby oil was laced with GHB. That's part of why they use so much of it. Now, I want to ask the sex worker, why were you watching Cassie's ass get beat for 8 years? How were you still able to perform after that? Child, you hear Diddy talking about how he got to go wash up after he went out to Harlem and hugged people. You went out there looking for fame and recognition because you're about to be on trial and everybody knows what you are. How you black and still a culture vulture. So Cassie realized her situation was never getting better. So in November of 2023, we find our 2023, she sues him for all the abuse, as she should. All right, well, that was episode 3. I want to talk about your job.